Hello boys and girls, and welcome back to another video. Today we're looking at the changes on Division 2 PTS that's coming. Now bear in mind that all of these changes will be guaranteed to drop live, but they're certainly a good place to start. So first of all, we're going to be looking at some changes for the Dark Zone. So the PvP players, a load of people, including myself, have been on the camp that so many changes need to be made to up the skill cap. I think you'll be pleased with what they've changed in the PTS. Hopefully a lot of this comes over to the actual live game. So the time to kill has been reduced, so that means the player versus player damage has been reduced. It was at 70% and they're reducing it to 40%, so they're reducing it by 30% damage reduction. Now I'm a big fan of this because the higher time to kill, we don't want it going back to Division 1 with the famous chicken dance or whatever, but this is a RPG, this is a looter shooter, and your gear should count for something. And even if I, with normalised gear, run up on you with a blue outfit, right, so I've got blue gear on, I get buffed, you're there and you're optimised 500 gear score. If I get the drop on you and start emptying a clip, there's no skill in the game that can help you. There's nothing you can do. You are going back to the checkpoint. And yeah, so the reduced time to kill should allow for a lot more plays, and the more skillful player, give them a chance to actually win more encounters. So I'm a big fan of this. So hopefully this is at least going to stay, and hopefully it will allow you some more play in your gameplay to actually outskill people. The normalization has been reworked, which again should have been done from day one. So instead of dragging your build down and buffing others, it's just going to up everyone's build to a max gear score. Now what's the problem with dragging it down? I mean, I used to have to run two builds for the same build. So I'd have one for the occupied Dark Zone and I'd have another one for the normalized Dark Zone. For example, my LMG build, I would have I've got 275k armor. I'm running that with unstoppable force, so you get 2% weapon damage for every 10% armor. That means that in the occupied Dark Zone I was getting 55% damage after a kill, right? So it's nice, it rewards the tanky sort of playstyle and you get rewarded for it. But if I dropped into the normalised Dark Zone, my build was crippled because I'd get dragged down to 160k armour. So now I'm only doing, what's that, like 30% damage, 32% damage, something like that. So it made more sense that instead of using unstoppable force, I'd switch to berserk, and then if my armor was depleted by say 50% in an encounter, I'd be doing 50% more damage anyway. So yeah, you'd have to have, this was right across the board as well. You'd have crit chance was nerfed, all sorts of things were capped and reworked, and when you actually looked into it, it often required two different builds, one for the occupied Dark Zone and then the other PvP areas which are all normalised. So really annoying. You'd have to farm two different lots for the same build, and then obviously the stash space was affected, so yeah, it was ridiculous having to do that. So now instead of you feeling like your build has been nerfed into the ground, you're actually going to feel like your build is still powerful. In fact, it increases in power, it's just everyone else's build gets brought up to it, so you won't need to run two of the same builds anymore, which is awesome on your stash space, and I'm a big fan of this one. It should have been like that from day one. Now the next change they're doing is no more rogue cooldowns, and let's be honest, they were pure AIDS. For example, I was a white rogue and I got killed at a landmark. I was climbing up a bit of scenery and a heavy NPC decided to spawn in and he shredded me, and when I went back to get my loot, some player had found my loot, put it on the extraction that had arrived, and because I was on a rogue cooldown, I couldn't do anything. I couldn't kill him, I couldn't cut the rope, and it was just pure AIDS. And worse than that is when you was in a group, if you died and you came back to your group, you couldn't help your group because you're on a rogue cooldown. Completely pointless, complete waste of time, and thank God that's gone. Now, most people I've played with have complained that the DZs were also too quiet. I felt it was the 12-man lobbies to blame, and I said it would always, even from the betas, I thought that if you'd up that to 16, it would be a lot better, offer a lot more PvP going forward. As at the moment, it was a bit of a PvE farm fest, to be honest with you, with the amount of NPCs and everything in there. But yeah, apparently it wasn't the server's size to blame, it's the matchmaking. So there were so many matchmaking restrictions, it split everyone up into so many different lobbies that lobbies never actually filled up. So they've actually changed this so that there's only going to be 2 splits. So either people below World Tier 5, they'll all get match made in their own lobbies, and people who are above it, and that is it. So that should offer a lot more full servers, and then we'll see if 12 people really is enough per server. And the next thing they've done is you actually be able to carry 6 pieces of contaminated gear in the DZ as standard, and then you'll be able to lock 8 pieces of gear or 10 pieces of gear in the DZ skill tree, which is obviously way more rewarding than running around with 4 or 5 bag that we can get. And if you kill people, makes it way more likely they're going to have something worth actually taking, and more rewarding to actually fight people if you can run up on people and get 20 pieces of gear. If you're solo and you took 2 men out at their extraction, makes it much better. Means it's already the quickest place to actually farm gear in the game at the moment, and this is only going to increase because you can carry more. Which brings us on to the next point, is that they're actually going to be dropping more gear in the dark zone. So bosses are going to be dropping more gear, contaminated items, and the next one, which is going to force even PvE players into the dark zone, is they're actually going to be dropping up to 515 gear score items in the dark zone. That's going to be the only place that you can get them in the game. Obviously, higher risk should offer higher rewards. And for those PvE players that are sort of scared to go in there and they don't want to, it's not major, the difference gear score between 500 that you can get outside of the DZ and up to 515 in it. But it is the only way that you can get that truly min-maxed gear score will be from going in the dark zone. And don't forget, the dark zone isn't just a PvP area, it's actually a PvP PvE area, and it's something everyone should experience. So yeah, you can check out my other videos, sort of linking the quickest routes to get gear, just doing chest farming. I'll be doing some tips so that you can get in there and get accustomed to it. But it is something everyone should experience in this game. And yeah, I mean, don't be scared out of it just because there's a slight chance of other people that's going to be looking to kill players. There's going to be plenty of people in there who are just going to be farming for gear, and they'll be wanting to leave you alone just like you are. But with the new buff to pulse that's coming, it's going from 10% damage to 20% damage, a couple of skill mods on that, and you'll be having a big sort of pulse range, fast cooldown. You can use something like that so that you can sort of spot rogue players in the distance, and then you can avoid them. It is pretty easy to avoid them. Learning the map obviously helps, but this is going to be a big change, and I'm looking forward to this one. And then there's the occupied dark zone, the absolute snooze fest, which I felt lied to as a consumer. This was meant to be the PvP area, back to the old days of Division 1 where it was ruthless, no 2.0 rogue system. You could run up and shoot people without flagging. It's meant to be the hardcore zone, but what they've actually done is, with no rogue system, made it incredibly difficult to find players to actually fight against. And the amount of time I've spent, like half an hour upwards, looking for people to actually fight. So Also that when you're in landmarks, it doesn't flag up on the mini-map, actually showing that anyone's farming a particular landmark. So again, you can't go hunt them down. When they pop an extraction, they're faster extraction times, and it doesn't flag up on the map. So again, it's harder to find people. It really is currently a PvE paradise. But they are looking to put in a rogue system soon. It won't be this PTS, but they are aware that people aren't happy with it at the moment. And they also have changed the amount of experience points lost when you die in there, because again, I was level 50, died 4 times when 3 of us got into a fight with another group against 4, and I lost 4 levels, bang bang bang, from 50 to 46, and I mean, that's not fun. that's too much of a penalty. But yeah, they are looking to change that, and thank God for that, because the ODZ is an absolute snooze fest at the moment. They are also looking to reduce the damage done in the occupied dark zone as well as the normal dark zone areas. So again, that should increase time to kill and reward people for their better play. Hopefully it will actually make a significant difference. Now the NPCs, they really did rule the dark zone this game, with the amount of elite patrols in every damn street, ruining every PvP encounter. You'd have sometimes, it always seemed to happen when it was nearly on manhunt, but say there was 2 of us fighting a few people, we're about to get on manhunt, and then 2 elite patrols appear, you start fighting those lot, that aggro's a landmark, and then you get swarmed by about 10 elites who all rush you, and whoever they decide to rush, you are dead. So they are looking to make the NPCs do less damage, which is obviously brilliant, because that should allow you to focus more on the PvP encounters that you get in there. But they didn't want to make the PvE side of the dark zone a complete washout and make it easy, so that you can just run past NPCs and not have any consequence, a bit like what happened in the Division 1. So what they've done is they've upped the time to kill on the NPCs, so they've increased their armor so they're not a complete walkover, which I'm happy with, and they've also reduced the number of NPCs, so you won't have those sort of patrols on every single street, which again offers a lot more PvP opportunities, and I can't wait for that, because oh man, I can't tell you the amount of times I was put to bed by the NPCs, and they just ruined, probably up to about 50% of PvP encounters in the dark zone would eventually be ruined by NPCs just spawning in and getting involved. So I can't wait that they lowered the count, they make them do less damage, you've got more time to react because the time to kill has been increased. Good times, can't wait for these changes. And then they're also changing a couple of things for conflicts. So they're changing the spawns, so it should be much harder to get spawn trapped, and they're also decreasing the buffs that you can collect, and that's being decreased by 50%. I can't tell you how many times I've been in close conflict matches which have been decided nothing more than opening a buff. So we're winning by a couple of kills, there's like 6 to go, they're like 2 behind obviously, so they've got 8 to go, and then the buff spawns right next to their team spawn location. They get that, they get a max armor build, then they push ahead by a few kills, and you end up losing through no skill, just because the other team got lucky enough to have a buff dropped at their feet. So they're changing that by 50%, and I can't wait for that. Again, it just, entire matches shouldn't be dictated on a drop of a box. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that, and obviously the spawn changes they needed looking at, so we're happy with those changes. Now there's obviously a few skill changes that have come, which is going to upset a lot of people, because they've got their build. Let's say you've gone for the Wids build and you've got Strain, you've got your crit chance, you've got your Berserk. The problem is that build is kind of broken, let's be honest. I mean, there are a few builds that can counter it. You know, an LMG from long distance, you're going to shred those shield builds, and obviously skill comes into it. You can kill a lot, you can outplay those players, but what my point is that it's overpowered is how quick it kills people. I mean, if you shoot someone's armor down 60-70%, they're doing that much more damage, 60-70% damage back at you on the already how ridiculously quick time to kill is on this game. Yeah, I mean, where's the skill? I mean, you're not using any timed like clutch medkits. You know, you haven't got any skills that are going to help out. You haven't got any revives that required timing to get your teammates up. So it was just a point and click. Let's be honest. So if you ran up and you got the drop on someone like that, you kill them quick. And with that build, it just massively increased the time to kill. And strained with the up to 100% crit hit damage, max crit hit chance, and then up to 100% actual weapon damage from those couple of things being paired together. It was pretty overpowered. I mean, game-breakingly so. What would you use instead of Berserk for 5 offensive mods? It just doesn't happen. So, you know, I mean, people like LMG builds, you can stack into Unstoppable Force and have the high armor. And then your whole point is to stay back, keep your armor up, and then obviously counteract it that way. But what I'm saying is, at the end of the day, it was so easy, not just for PvP, but for PvE as well, just to absolutely melt through things. And the game needs to be balanced. It needs to offer lots of variety, different builds. And I mean, the Berserk talent was just too strong and easy to activate. So from them changing it, I'm kind of happy that they're going to be balancing these things. So they're actually keeping it. They're keeping obviously the talent in there, but they are reducing it by 50%. So now the max you can get if you have no armor is going to be 50% overall weapon damage, and that's okay with me. But to unlock it, you have to have 11 offensive mods. That's obviously like quite the glass cannon build, and you won't be able to double it up with strained anymore because that still requires 5 or less weapon mods. So yeah, you could go full glass cannon with Berserk, or you could try do a, you know, more of a crit hit chance. And they've looked at balancing, so things what's that talent called on the gloves that offers a flat 15% damage if your crit chance is less than 20%. Obviously you could keep that one on your gloves, compensated, so it's called compensated. So that's like 15% flat damage if you've got less than 20% crit chance. But if you've got less than 20% crit chance, it doesn't make too much sense to run strained on your gun, because that offers a lot more damage for when you do your crits, right? So they're trying to, those sorts of talents, they're trying to split them up so that you get more variety from other things. They might have divided things too much, but yeah, I mean, as it was with the quick time to kill, I'm kind of happy that they've put the changes in place. I know it's going to upset a lot of people because they've already completed their builds, but yeah, I think for the longevity of the game, if you're forced into having 1 or 2 talents and every other talent is pretty much useless, then that's kind of broken and defeats the purpose of you know, a big looter shooter and where you can have variety of builds. So that's it's kind of a good change in my opinion. Anyway, that sort of covers all of the changes that I've seen on the PTS. Overall, I can't wait. As predominantly a PvP player, I think these changes were needed, required. I was worried that a lot of people were actually going to quit the game a lot faster because the lower skill cap involved than previously on Division 1. Now I know a lot of people say, oh, the chicken dance and all the rest of it. There's so many more skills, or so much more skill required. You know, clutch med kits with things like refreshed masks and combat medic, so that your heals you were a lot stronger, up to like 70% at one point when you coupled those couple of bits. But you know, you don't get anything like that now, because the skills take a long time to activate, and it's usually people pop a defender drone before getting into a fight, and then it's just point and shoot. And if you get the drop on someone, like I say, even if I was wearing blue gear and a normalised DZ, if I got the drop on you, you're dead before you can even react. So there is way less skill involved. But these changes look like it's a step in the right direction. I'm looking forward to it. So yeah, I can't wait to test it. But that's been all from me. Again, there was a lot to cover in this video, so thanks for sticking with it. Stay tuned, because I've got a few build videos coming up. Obviously that grind for the 500 gear score slows things down, and these changes that are coming will probably slow things down too. But we've got some PvP content coming as well, so stay tuned for all that. Thanks for watching. If you didn't like it, as always, you can go eat a big one, and I'll catch you all in the next one, guys. Cheers. Peace.